Good stuff, thank you, mate. Now, the case of American teenager Brock Turner has made international headlines, as you know, in particular the way the offender was dealt with and portrayed. So once again, we're having a discussion about consent. Now, a group of young Kiwis have decided enough is enough. They're tackling this tough issue. Take a look at this.
I know it ain't easy, that's why I wrote it in the song. Lying in the sand, I'll take it like a man. When I say I love you so, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. No, your body emotion in your control means I understand when you say no.
Well, the music video was written and performed in just 3 days by 25 teens from the Waikato. Joining us now, Real youth worker Chaz Naera and 2 performers from the video, Winston, Treanor and Ashdyn Newton. Thank you very much, team, for coming in. Chaz, I want to start with you. What was the initial catalyst behind this project?
So we had a bit of work come our way, funded to do some research with young people around sexual health, around young people having access to sexual health information and making positive choices around the issue of sexual health and consent and those sorts of things.
Did it very quickly become obvious that talking about sexual health is a pretty big topic, that you wanted to actually narrow it down onto the issue of consent?
Yeah, well, we started initially asking young people 2 questions. 1, what do young people talk about when it comes to sex? And 2, what do young people need to know? And from that, we narrowed it right down to the issue of consent.
And Ashdyn, this is quite interesting because then you guys all sat around in a group and sort of talked about what matters to you guys.
Yeah, we sat around, we shared ideas from, well, our perspective being youth. And
was it pretty confronting, or was it really quite easy, like you all were on the same page?
Oh, we all eventually got there, because obviously we all just started off and we just all showed up not really having a general idea, but we kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but as far as, you know, this issue of consent as well, were some of you quite nervous about talking about this? Because, I mean, I don't know whether you know, that there is enough respect for each other in, you know, amongst youth at the moment, or whether actually you guys were all on the same page.
Yeah, it probably was a hard topic to get out there first.
We didn't sort of start with the question,
yeah,
sexual health. We sort of worked our way in and had, you know, young people just talk around.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? But Winston, after the project, did any of your sort of preconceived notions about consent change?
Oh, yes, very much. Because we wouldn't really think of anything like that. It wouldn't pop up in the conversation, it wouldn't...
Yeah, and then there are sort of things which you can talk through with your parents or maybe other people who you might otherwise confide in. It's quite hard work, isn't it? You know, to be able to actually sort of get to the core of it. The result, Winston, tell us about the result, because we've seen the music video. Did it then become really easy for you guys to buy into this when you realised, hold on, you're actually going to be able to do it in a song?
Yeah, definitely. As soon as it came down to, you know, actually producing it, the videos, the song and that, it all just fell into place kind of thing.
He was the man behind
and then afterwards,
the directing, telling everybody what to do.
OK, so you're the creative genius behind it all. What sort of response have you guys had?
Oh, so far so good. Oh, I reckon it is.
Yeah, yeah. But from your peers, I mean, are they sort of applauding and saying this is awesome, this is actually teaching us, you know, because we're trying to talk about communicating messages here, and they're saying this is how we want it to, you know, we get this?
Yeah, well, definitely. We've had a lot of positive feedback lately.
And now some schools are beginning to introduce educational programs in New Zealand into how we should say no, and also maybe how we recognise consent hasn't been given. Should this be compulsory, do you think?
I think it definitely should be talked about. One thing we noticed around this topic was it's not comfortable. It's not something that's talked about lots, particularly with young people. And there was something we were really interested in was how do we have those conversations, in what ways? And we ended up with the product through, that's the best way to communicate, particularly to young people, through song, video, that sort of medium.
Yeah, and I think the song does speak for itself. Well worth everyone having a look at it and trying to get something out of it. Ashdyn, Winston, Chaz, thank you very much to the 3 of you for coming in to share that. It's a bloody big topic, isn't it?
Certainly is.
As a dad of young boy and girls, one which we talk about in the household a lot as they're getting increasingly near that age.
Yeah, and I loved that video that did the rounds, was it last year, about consent being like a cup of tea? If you ask someone if they want a cup of tea, and if they don't want one, you don't force it on them, you know? It's just boiling it down to those simple kind of concepts. Now, next up on Breakfast...